Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 14th of September 2015, and this is episode 146, Lunch Date. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. I had a really good week. Mostly good. I mean, every week has bad parts, right? But it was Gabriel's birthday week, and that was really, really exciting. I went to his school and had lunch with him and his friends, and that went over really well. I don't know why, but I was incredibly nervous like the half hour before I left to go. It's like, oh my gosh, what if, I don't know, like, what if he doesn't have friends at school? I know he has friends at school, but it's different, like, knowing your kid has friends at school and like seeing them interact. And I started talking and now Molly's going crazy. Sorry about that. Hi, Molly. So I went to school. I hung out with a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds. I got to see the girl that Gabriel's been talking about. It's the first girl that he's ever been like, oh, she's my friend. Because last year, boys and girls couldn't be friends, he said. At the very end of the year, he kind of had a friend. But this year, like, he specifically has a female friend. So you need to get down and you need to stop. So yeah, I kind of got to meet her and I got to meet a bunch of his other friends and they were very interested. I brought my knitting because I'm incapable of sitting for 20 minutes because it takes me like 10 minutes to eat lunch and then it's a half-hour lunch period, and Gabriel wasn't talking to me the whole time. He was talking to his friends, which was fine. I didn't want to monopolize his time. Like, he sees me all the time every day, so he can have his friend time. But they were really, really fascinated with knitting, and one of them was like talking about the finer points between knitting and crochet because someone was like, oh, she's crocheting, and he was like, actually, she's knitting because those are knitting needles, and blah, 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 crochet. And then I pulled out Gabriel's dragon because he wanted to take it to school. I gave it to him before school, and he wanted to take it to school, but I told him he couldn't take it to school, but I would bring it to lunch. I was not going to tell him that I was coming to lunch with him, but then Wednesday night he got home from school. His birthday was Thursday. He's like, tomorrow's my birthday. And I said, yes, tomorrow's your birthday. And he said, are you going to come to lunch for my birthday? I said, do you want me to come to lunch for your birthday? And he said, yes. I was like, okay, then I'll come. Even though I had already set up the reservation at the school and I was just going to surprise him. I kind of feel like Gabriel's going to be like me, wherein it's incredibly difficult to actually surprise because he'll just know that things are going to happen. I don't know how I just know things are going to happen, but I do. Yeah, it was really fun. I feel like I'm babbling. Don't care. It was the best lunch date that I've been on in a long time. He was so excited. I was so excited to see him. All of his friends were so excited to see me, probably because I brought cupcakes, but whatever. And they were all trying to engage me in conversation. First graders are so fun. It's no holds barred. They'll ask you whatever pops into their heads. And they're not concerned about social graces and everything. Like, this is totally random and this is a really long time. I don't normally talk at the beginning of my podcast about my life so much, so if this is your first episode and you're here just for the knitting, normally I keep the intro 2 minutes or less. But I'm really excited, and he turned 7. My baby turned 7, and it's just whatever. So in life, apparently, maybe I'm just not old enough or whatever to understand, but apparently in life you're not supposed to ask women how old they are. 7-year-olds don't care, especially on someone's birthday, because they went around the table and they were like, oh, I'll be 7, blah, blah, blah. This is my birthday. This is when I'll be 7. And then they were like, so how old are you? And I told them I was 29. And they were like, oh, you're older or younger than my parents. And so they all went around and said all of their parents' ages. And it's hilarious because in real life, that wouldn't happen. Like, people at work, when they find out I have kids, they're like, You don't look old enough to have kids. Pause. Giving me the intro to say how old I am if I would like, but they will not ask because that's rude. It's just very funny. If you get a chance to have lunch with a group of first graders, I highly recommend it because they're hilarious. Anyway, knitting podcast, knitting, spinning, crocheting, crafting, general podcast. That's what this is. So let's get to that. I have in the group, I think it's safe to say that the knit along is all of ours. We have a finisher frog craft along going in the group, and anything finished between September 1st, November 30th counts. Doesn't matter when it was started. There are some rules though for if you are bringing in an incoming WIP. If you don't know them, there's a link in the show notes to the chatter thread, and the rules are all there. The tag is BPHFOF15, and I forgot to say last week that I didn't get anyone saying no, don't have cross stitch or handcrafts involved in the finisher frog progress, so I'm gonna say that that can count for finished objects in the finished objects thread for prizes, which have not been announced, but there's still 2.5 months to the knit along, and obviously there would be a prize for any amount, but I'm going to announce the first prize when we hit 50, and then subsequent 50s entries will bring more prizes because I think that's fun, and you guys are killing it. We're up to 40 posts, which is 39 entries into it, and admittedly some of those are mine because a lovely viewer said she would give me a prize if I pulled my own name, which is exciting. And so I'm posting my own projects in there, but you guys are awesome. Rocking out the finished objects and the frogs. And the frogs, I feel your pain when you have to frog things. I don't have anything planned for frogging right now, but you never know, I could come across something. Right now I just have a dog in my face, and that's kind of irritating. The other thing this week that is not directly knitting related is the drawing for the Phoenix hat. There were 6 entries, so your chances are pretty good because I'm drawing 2 names. And I would really love to gift all of you the pattern, but I looked at my PayPal balance and it's not quite there, so 2 people. And I will draw them right now. I have 1 piece of paper and another piece of paper. So the winners are Try Linda, who is Linda, and Allegria, who is Allison. Very exciting. I haven't decided yet if you need to contact me or if I'm just going to send it to you. We'll see. You'll know if you watch this and I haven't just sent it to you that you need to contact me, but I might just gift it to you. That will totally depend on how hectic things get after I finish recording, right? Is that all the things? I think that's all the things. There is something that's floating around in my brain that didn't make it to my show notes. I've been trying to remember it for about the past half hour, so I could write it out to the show notes. No dice. So there might be something else that's not crafty that I need to talk about, but I don't remember right this minute. You'll know if it happens. Finished objects. I have so many this week. I'm super proud of myself. Super proud. So the dragon. Finished the dragon. And here he is. So adorable. His neck is a little floppy because I did not go by the pattern instructions. You're supposed to make the head and the body separately, and I just made them as one piece, and I did it really late at night, and I wasn't thinking about it, and I added an extra round in at the neck. So the head's a little floppy, but Gabriel thought the dragon was awesome, and so did all of his friends. They were like, wow, that's really, really cool. And I was like, oh, I'm glad you think so. So here is the dragon. I would say that if you are a beginning crafter, this might not, like a beginning crocheter, this might not be the pattern to go with. It is a free pattern, and it's posted on a blog, and I think it's a blog. I might be lying. It's Dragon Amigurumi by Rachel Rodriguez. Find it on Ravelry. It's free. This is the second time I've made it, and I didn't put notes to myself last time. There's no abbreviation key for the stitches, and I'm pretty sure that SL space SC in the pattern means slip stitch, but when I was making the arms, which is the first place you encounter it, I didn't treat it as a slip stitch. I treated it as a single crochet until I got almost halfway through the arm, and I was like, oh, I think that's supposed to be a slip stitch. I did not go back. I just made the arm as it is because it's for a 7-year-old and he thought the dragon was awesome. So it doesn't matter. Same thing on the feet. So there are also no instructions on where to put things together. It just gives you the instructions per piece and then you put it together. There are photos. There is a front photo, a back photo, a side photo, and then like a 3/4 photo. So it's not complicated, but if you like that sort of thing where they're like, in between these rows, sew this on or whatever, or place the eyes in between these rows, it doesn't give you that. What else? I used Red Heart Super Saver in Cherry Red, and I had this black sparkly yarn that is a light fingering-ish. I'm pretty sure it's acrylic. My mom made me some socks for Christmas one year. She crocheted some, and they were like fishnetty, but they didn't fit very well. The foot was too long. The heel was really weird. It was a free pattern that she found. She made a pair for myself and a pair for my sister, just as fun things, not as like, you must wear these things. And I frogged them because they didn't fit, and I can use yarn all the time. And I'd rather have the yarn sitting in my yarn stash than an object that I'm never going to use. So I ended up frogging those socks, and I held the yarn 3 strands together to make the stomach, which Gabriel was like, that is so cool. How did you get the sparkles in the yarn, Mom? That's awesome. So I showed him the yarn, and I was like, it just comes with a sparkly thread wrapped around it. And I used it for the horns, and then I also used it on the wings. I was originally going to do the structure parts of the wings in black and the fleshy part of the wings in the red, but it just didn't work out that way. I didn't love the way it looked, so I did it backwards. These eyes are eyes that Christine sent me, so thank you. Christina sent me, so thank you. I don't know why I have a problem with names that could end either just end or have an A put on. Like, people use them both ways, but I always do. I almost always drop the A because I'm lazy. It's true. I'm lazy. If I can shorten your name, I will. Because I'm lazy. It's too many syllables. If I can take a 3-syllable name and shorten it to 1, I'm going to call you the 1 syllable. Or if I can shorten it from 3 to 2, I'm going to do it. So it's not intentional. I know your name. I'm sorry, Christina. I just always drop the A at the end when I'm talking. Not when I'm writing, but when I'm talking, I always drop it. I do that a lot. I'm sure people who watch the podcast notice that I drop syllables here and there that I don't necessarily feel are integral to the meaning of what I'm saying. Like, I don't say I a lot at the beginning of sentences because I'm clearly talking about myself. So you know who I'm talking about. I never drop it when I'm writing, though. I always write correctly. I just talk lazily. I don't think there's anything else about this dragon except that he's adorable. Look at his tail. And the wings, you know, they look good when I'm not crumpling them behind his back like this. But Gabriel really likes him. That's exciting. I also finished. Are you shocked? You shouldn't be, because that's all I had left to do. Child tube sock, 1 stripe and a bind off. Finished it that day. I was on the elliptical. And yeah, I just have to weave in the ends, but since we're doing, you know, an end weaving party at the end of the year, I'm taking that as an excuse to not weave in ends right now, unless I absolutely have to. So I'll be setting this aside to weave in ends later. The yarn is Television Counts as a Place, and the pattern is Child Tube Sock Recipe, which is my own. So that is finished. The project I'm most proud of finishing is the Expanding Community Socks. So last week I was here. They're toe-up socks. So I had this much, and now they're finished, both of them. The pattern is super well written, as Megan Williams' patterns are. The yarn is Leading Men Fiber Arts in the colorway Glacial. Showcase? Showstopper? I don't remember. I'm sorry, I should know this, but I don't. And I don't have the tag near me because I'm a mess. I'm a mess. And my desk, always a disaster. It just is. I can't make things if my desk is clean, because as soon as I start making things, my desk gets cluttered again. Because I work on, you know, 50 different projects at a time. Anyway, it is the sock base, the merino nylon base. That's what this is. Works up very beautifully. It is not a self-striping, but it does, because of the gauge, it spiraled into stripey-ish things, which is really pretty. And I finished them yesterday. They are dry, so after this is going up, I will be heading to the post office and shipping this out. So it wasn't quite, I wanted them finished on Friday. I didn't finish them until Sunday because works in progress, transition. I got waylaid by my daughter on Friday. Could have finished the socks. Was very close. I think I had one more pattern repeat, one full pattern repeat, half of another pattern repeat, and then the cuffs. Not a lot of work, but she came in and she was like, "You need to make a dress for Mara." And I said, "Oh, okay." She had a piece of fabric that Lorraine had given me for her to make her something that I had told her I was going to make her a dress out of, but she didn't seem interested. So I think I told her I was going to make a skirt out of it. She didn't seem interested. So I was like, whatever. And she was just very, very determined that I would work on this dress for her. So I have a sewing machine. My sewing machine is not working. I broke the needle. I need to fix the tension on the bobbin. The one that's under the sewing foot. These things would take like 5 minutes if I would just do them, but I don't want to. I like hand sewing a lot. Love hand sewing. I've made lots of things sewing by hand. Love it. Don't like machine sewing. It's too noisy. I've never found a machine that does not make, that is quiet enough that it doesn't irritate me. I have a really big problem with repetitive sounds, which is what sewing machines make. So I can sew on a sewing machine. I'm pretty good at it, but it just makes me crabby, which is kind of why I didn't make her a dress already. So she brought me thread and a needle, and I hand sewed the top hem. I made her a handkerchief style skirt, which all I did was I took the rectangle of fabric, I folded it in half long ways, and then folded it widthwise into, so it was, 4 rectangles, 4 thicknesses. I cut out the center, and then I folded that over and sewed it in a hem. She wanted green thread for her pink fabric. I was like, whatever, it's your dress. I don't care. I'm not picky. So I sewed that down, and then I needed to make the waistband stay because she's a small human, and she had a pair of underwear that I just pulled out of the wash but I haven't gotten rid of yet. That is holey. So I cannibalized the elastic from the underwear. It was in a tube, like, okay, so you know how your underwear can either have a fabric tube that the elastic is run through, or it's got the band that just is the elastic? Hers was in a tube, which meant it was really easy to take the elastic out of because I just snipped the ends of the tube where the elastic was. Well, I snipped one end, grabbed the elastic, held it, and then snipped the other end so the elastic wouldn't get lost in the tube, and just pulled it out. It took like 5 seconds. Whereas if the elastic was actually sewn on, then you would have to rip that whole seam. So I took the elastic out, I put it in the waistband of the skirt, and she has worn it since. She's worn it every day. It has not been washed yet, which it can't be washed yet because I didn't finish the bottom hem. It's still unfinished. And she's wearing it as a dress, which is inappropriate because she wears it, pulled up to armpit height, and you can see her underwear. One time I got her to wear a shirt with it, and I keep telling her she either needs to wear a shirt with it or pants with it, but she's convinced that it's just a dress and that's all. I don't really care as long as she doesn't go out of the house. But that took up some crafting time. I don't have any pictures of it because I can't get her to stand still. Maybe she'll interrupt my podcast later and you'll get to see it because she's wearing it. And there might be baby underwear in there, just so you know. It might happen. So that took up some crafting time. That's all I'm trying to say. Because I worked on that, and when it's finished, when I finished the hem, I will show you a picture. It should be finished this week because sometime when she's not wearing it, like when she takes a bath or a shower, I will steal it from her, finish the hem, and wash it because I think she spilled milk on it yesterday, maybe. Or maybe she spilled water on it. She spilled something on it, and she was telling me, but then she wouldn't take off the skirt because she's, 4, almost 5. Anybody who has children knows how that goes. Other things that I worked on the Frankenstein ace bandage section. Not a lot. I think I put 3 rounds on it this week, so it doesn't look very spectacular, but Claire yesterday had 2 rounds to go on the ace bandage for my sock, and then putting it on waist yarn, and then Lorraine gets my yarn. So I'm still ahead of the game because Lorraine gets my yarn and Claire starts another piece. So I'm still ahead of the game. I'm still further than either of them are, so I'm not freaking out about it too much because there are a lot of other things that I want to work on instead that have more, not really deadlines. I mean, my deadline knitting for the month is finished. Everything that really needed to be finished is finished. Everything else that I'm working on this month, it's like, well, I'd kind of like to finish that. That'd be good if I could finish it. But if I don't, I'm not going to freak out. So Frankenstein, worked on them a little. It might become elliptical knitting. Who knows? I'm still doing elliptical knitting, but I finished the tube socks. So my new elliptical knitting is the Scaling the Stronghold. I was here last week, so I did all this on the elliptical. I am almost to the point in the pattern where you go from working in the round to working flat, which when you're doing 2x2 ribbing is not really that, like, it's not that different working it flat from working it in the round. So It'll be easy peasy. I have, I think, 5 rounds. No, maybe 7 rounds before I split. And I don't know if I'll be able to do that on the elliptical. I don't remember because I haven't knit this pattern since I designed the sample for it. And that was a long time ago. And I didn't read ahead when I started knitting the pattern because I know the pattern works. So I don't remember what happens after the split. I mean, I know what it's supposed to look like, but I don't remember how I did that. So that's fun, right? It should be finished by next week because, you know, elliptical. Do it every day, or at least 6 days a week. I've been doing it recently, 6 days a week. Oh, here comes the child. Maybe you'll get to see her dress.
Inside.
I don't know where your costume is, so I don't know if you saw her dress at all. But this is it. This is her dress. Sorry for the slight bit of baby nudity.
Pirate dress.
Your firefighter dress? This is her fairy princess dress that I made her, handkerchief style.
Look my dress.
It is very nice.
I'm Rella.
You're a Rella? She's a Rella, which is like Cinderella, but not Cinderella. She's a Rella in that dress. That's her Rella dress. Just, I don't know. Okay, now I'm going to pause and deal with the child. I found the tag for the Scaling the Stronghold yarn, and then I promptly misplaced it, of course. But it's linked in the show notes, or written in the show notes. I don't remember if it's linked or not, but it's in the show notes. And I'm working it on a US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. All socks are made on US size 1 2.25 needles. My cat is sleeping on my chair. I have a new chair in my room. Can't remember if I brought it up here this past week or the week before. I think it was this past week. I had a chair in my room that was... Ducky did not hurt his leg. He's fine. I had a chair in my room that we brought from our old place, and it was fine. I liked it a lot. But then Steve got a massaging recliner chair that's too small for him from a friend of his who is moving. So it's now in my room, and I put the chair that was in my room in Gabriel's room, so now he has a designated reading chair, and I'm always really excited when I walk past his room and see him sitting in his chair reading a book. It's very exciting. Longtime viewers of the show, I'm pretty sure that you know that Gabriel is a reluctant reader, and it's been a struggle with him. Not like Mara. Mara's just like, books, yay!
Costume back.
Your firefighter costume?
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. Go find it.
Let me get my pirate costume.
Okay, get your pirate costume. She's so cute. Now she's wearing pants with it. And it's so much cuter. I'm going to try to get a picture of her wearing her dress with her pants. She's so cute. My daughter is totally my, like, she is what I would be if I were fashionable at all. Also, if I was really skinny and didn't have curves. Whatever. It sounds crazy, but like I would, if I was tall and skinny, I would dress like my daughter does. But I'm not tall and skinny. I'm not short, but I'm also not skinny. I have curves. She just went outside. I'm going to give it like 20 seconds, see if she comes back in, because she went in the garage. Also, weeks ago, very tangential this episode, and I don't think I'm going to cut much out. A few weeks ago, I said I need to go see if my daughter is outside naked, and then I didn't tell you guys. She was not naked completely, but she did go outside in the backyard in just her underwear. Really, child? Anyway, I don't remember what I was saying about the cowl or about anything else, but I think I'm finished talking about the cowl. So I'm going to talk about my other 2 works in progress, which are the coat of many colors. So this is the sweater that I'm working on, and it doesn't look like much. You might notice that I'm working on 2 circulars. Last week I had it on 1 circular, but it was interchangeables, and I had cables connected to make it long enough. Well, the join on the interchangeables that I have, it's the boy interchangeables, and the join was not great. So I had to stop all the time to move those stitches over the join. So last night I just decided that it would be so much easier if it was on 2 separate circulars. I haven't made a ton of progress. I think that's 3 rounds that I did last night because I didn't work on it all week. I was working on those other projects. But here's my progress. Doesn't it look like a sweater? No? It will someday look like a sweater. The yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks Swish Tonal. Is that right? It's worsted weight, it's tonal yarn, colorway is Canopy. I am not alternating skeins because I think that the sweater construction will, because it's worked in a circle, it won't really matter if the yarns don't, if they pool in different ways, because they're going to anyway, because the circle gets smaller. So that's what that's looking like. Someday it will be a sweater. Hopefully by the end of the month it will be a sweater. And I also worked on, the sweater is worked on size 6 needles, which is 4.0. The pattern calls for a 7, but I did a gauge swatch and my stitch count was way off. I'm making the smallest size based on the measurement that they have you take to decide which size you're going to make. It comes in 3 sizes. And making the smallest size, and since my swatch was going to be way bigger, I decided to go down a needle size. I didn't re-swatch. Should have, didn't. I'm not going to worry about it too much at this point. If the sweater works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll give it to somebody else. I just really want to make this sweater. And that is from the Knit Swirl book, which is by Sandra McIver. The last thing that I'm working on this week is I picked up my scrap rag rug thing for my back porch, and I don't think I even put a round on this. Maybe though. Oh, I did. I put a full round on it because I was going through my scrap bin of yarn. Anything that's too small to sit, worsted weight, like acrylic type leftovers, anything that's too small to fit on the in the milk crate I have behind me right here with partial skeins of acrylic yarn. Anything that's too small to be on there, I wind into a cake and put in my scrap bin. While I was going through there to see if I knew I had black sparkly yarn, but I didn't know how much red I had. And I didn't think I had enough to make a dragon. And I was also looking for blue for slippers because the only blues that I have in my acrylic stash right now are baby blue, and I don't want to send an 8-year-old boy baby blue slippers. So I was looking through and found a dark blue, which was good, but I also found a ball of this blue that was about palm size. There's like a thing when you're a caretaker of small children that is a little warning system in your brain that's like, I haven't heard from the child in about 5 minutes. So that went off and I had to go find my daughter, who was coming into the garage, coming back in. And I'm pretty sure that she went in the neighbor's backyard and went in their toy box because she had some Hello Kitty knee pads that I've never seen before. We're having a battle right now because she understands-ish that she's not allowed to go in people's garages, but the toy box is an outside toy box. It's for all the outside toys, and whenever all of the kids are playing over there, the neighbor's like, oh yeah, it's fine, go ahead, go dig through it. She doesn't quite understand that she can't just go over there when the neighbors are not there and go through it. So that's, yeah, it's a little bit of a battle. And I don't normally mind when she goes in the garage because we have a toy area in the garage where she can just grab things out, or there's a art supply box in the garage that she goes through and brings things in. But after about 5 minutes, I assume she's left the premises. She'll learn. It'll be fine. Anyway, The rag rug I also started, just barely started with the next fabric that's going to be in there. I put in about this much fabric onto it. So this is from Mara's sheet that I turned from a flat sheet into a fitted sheet. Or yeah, this is the corner from the flat sheet that I turned into a fitted sheet. And then I also have part of the fitted sheet that has holes in it. Where are they? They're here somewhere. Or is this the curtain? I don't know. This is the curtain. I lied. This is the half of the sheet that I'm turning into a curtain, and I just haven't finished sewing it yet because, again, hand sewing. And I actually really, really, really like hand sewing. But I do it for a while, and then I set it down, and then I don't pick it up again. Because it's not like knitting where I'm like, ooh, I want to knit with all these yarns. I do have a pretty big stash of fabric, but it's all hidden away, so it's not in my face, making me think about it all the time. So I worked on that too this week. Sewed on that a little bit, doing a hem. So maybe she'll eventually have a new curtain. We'll see. Eventually it's going to happen, I'm sure. Anyway, this is the next fabric that's going in, and I have half of a sheet plus 4 small corners that's going to go on there. So it won't be a lot. It might be a couple rounds. I don't know. The rounds are getting pretty big, so it takes a lot of fabric to make one round right now. But that will be coming up on my rag rug. I have new things! So last week, if you're on Instagram, you will have seen a giant white box that, the box is like bigger than my torso. Sitting in my lap, it covers me from here all the way down when it's on an angle. Flat, I think it comes up to like my nose or something. I don't know. It's a huge box, and it's from Josh, and he sent me all of my things from the ZK, but also tagging along was a little mini package from RJ. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so everything else in the box, I knew was coming. Like, I didn't remember how pretty it all was because it's been a long time since the ZK when I first saw it. This shirt was in the box. There was a t-shirt and 3 plaid shirts that were from Josh's old wardrobe, which I love. I love them so much. Anyway, this is the new thing that was new to me that I was really excited about. And I will show you all the yarn and fiber and stuff that was in the box over time. Same way that I did when I came home from the ZK with the stuff that I had bought. I was really, really excited when I opened the package and there was this bag with my name on it. And I was like, I don't remember that bag. And inside the bag, some Drops Fable print in the color, I didn't even look, 677. Super pretty blues with greens and purples. I'm excited for that. I don't know if I'm going to be making them for socks probably, maybe mitts, for me or someone else, but super pretty, and I need to knit myself some more socks soon. Thankfully that we're doing this whole weaving in ends, mending things thing in December. Or maybe the universe was just like, oh, you're planning on doing that? Well, let's make all of your socks have holes in them all at once. All of my socks do not have holes in them, but I have a lot of socks that either have really small holes in them or are about to be worn through. So as soon as I see that, right after I wash them and I hang them to dry, the ones that are fine, I hang on my normal line to dry, but the other ones I hang up over my washing machine so I don't accidentally put them away and wear them and damage them further. So I still have a really good collection of socks, but I'm kind of like, oh man, that's a lot of socks that have some wear to them. And I'll talk about that later. I'll talk about them in December. But I kind of feel like I need to knit myself some more socks, just in case they become irreparably damaged. Obviously, I don't have a problem darning socks. One of my Legolas socks had a heel and a toe darned. So obviously I don't have a problem darning. And I would rather take the, 10 minutes to darn a sock than just be like, oh, I'll just throw it away and make a new pair. That's silly to me. I totally understand. Other people feel that way. And if it was like a huge hole, like the entire ball of the foot or ball of the heel was gone, then I'd be like, oh, I'll just knit a new pair because that's going to take a really long time to fix. But, if it's only 10 minutes, why not? So this came in. Beautiful. Love it. And then there are also 3 balls. Where'd the other one go? I don't know. There are 3, but only 2 are immediately in my face. Nope, the other one got set to the side. There are 3 of Drops Delight, which is a single, and it is super washable and polyamide. The color is 09. And this looks Noro-esque to me. I don't know. I didn't do any research on it, so I don't know. But it looks like long color repeats, changes, sort of things. And I don't know what that's going to be, but it's so pretty. And I think it would look good on me. Who knows? I don't know. Could be for somebody else, maybe, but it could be for me. I could wear purple. I would probably make it and wear it once, and then my sister would see it and be like, ooh, that's pretty. Can I borrow it for a minute? And it would end up going to Michigan with her. Don't think you're tricky, Amanda. I know what you were thinking. Yeah, so pretty. So I'm super excited about that. So pretty. And I don't think that my local yarn shop sells drops, so it's not something that I can easily get my hands on here. I know it's not super hard to order online. Places sell it, but I don't order a lot of things online, so I'm really excited about that yarn. Just babbling now. This podcast is long this week, so now I'm to the babble part. But I have so much more to still talk to you about. And while I was gone, finding my daughter, I remember the thing that I wanted to tell you about, but I'm going to tell you about it at the end. So there's that. I have, I wouldn't say a book review, because this isn't really a book review, but I am going to geek out about a book a little bit. Yesterday, Claire brought, actually, I'm going to tell you a story that has nothing to do with knitting, but I think it's actually kind of cool. Last week, Claire was talking about, at Knitting, a book that she had purchased during the week that's a knitting book she's really excited about, and she wanted to show us, but she forgot. She was like, I need to remember to bring it next week. So I pulled out my phone because I got a new phone. I told you about that, right? Got a new phone recently-ish. And I found that I can set up text messages to be scheduled to be sent at a particular time, which is brilliant because I work late. I work until midnight, and then I don't go to sleep until 2. But a lot of the people who I text are not middle of the night people. They have more regular hours of sleep and awake. So I can set up the text to send at like lunchtime the next day when something pops in my head and I'm like, ooh, I want to say this to this person, but I don't want to chance waking them up. So I've used that a couple times. Or if I need to remember, Steve gets up with Gabriel in the morning most of the time. So if I need to remind him on Friday that something needs to happen on Monday, but I know we'll both forget, I have sent him a text before saying, hey, this paper needs to go into Gabriel's backpack this morning. And I've set it to go off, 20 minutes before the bus comes. So Steve's like, oh yeah, this. And he's actually used the function to send me texts when he thinks of things first thing in the morning that he wants to tell me, but he doesn't want to make me up. So it gets to me a couple hours later. It's very brilliant. Very brilliant, and I greatly appreciate it, whoever figured out how to do that. Technology is awesome sometimes. Anyway, last week she was like, I need to remember to do this. So as we were sitting there last week, I sent her a text message. I set up a text message to be sent to her, and I said, okay, you will get a text on Sunday at about 11:30 reminding you. She was like, that's kind of awesome. So she got the text yesterday reminding her, and she brought the book. And this is what it is. It's Geek Knits which is put together by Joan of Dark. And there are several, inside you'll find more than 30 fun and funky knitting projects modeled by some familiar faces. So some things that I'm going to show you in here are the projects, and you can see projects, but some of them are the people who are photoed with the projects. I totally geeked out over this book, not just because it's Geek Knits. There are several interesting patterns, some of them which I would not make. The first, I didn't mark which were patterns and which were people, so you're just going to get whichever one comes up first in the book, because I have these markers in here. The first, I totally geeked out when I was flipping through, and I was like, that's not, oh my gosh, that is Patrick Rothfuss. I know that I told you about his books a long time ago, back when we lived at the old place and I was recording the podcast. I think within the first 17 episodes. That was a really, really long time ago. He writes the Kingkiller Chronicles, or is writing. It's a trilogy, and the third book is not out yet. There are 2 books in the trilogy and a companion novella, which I talked about last year, I think. I loved it so much. When I was telling you about this, just so you know what I'm talking about, maybe, I was telling you that the book is a book that you probably wouldn't want to read unless you had read the books, because the character of the story, it only follows her, and it follows her over a week, I think. She's very, very strange, and she's a really lovable character, but I don't know if you would like her if you just read that book. It would just be too weird taking it out of the context of the universe of the book, of the world of the book. Anyway, I'm desperately waiting for the 3rd installment of the Kingkiller trilogy, which I think a lot of people are. And I saw his picture and I was like, that can't be. And then it was. Would I make that pattern? Probably not. The alien snow beast balaclava? Probably not. But I was like, oh my gosh, it's Patrick Rothfuss in a knitting book. That's so cool. This one is for the pattern because I have a favorite character in the labyrinth. And it might not be one of the ones you're thinking. My favorite is the worm, the helpful worm. So there you see him. I am in love with this pattern, and I might someday actually make a helpful worm. It could happen. Theoretically, I might make a toy for myself. Okay, probably not, but I might. This is Dragon, which is just a dragon. But I make a lot of dragons. You may have noticed in your time. Like, of toys that I make, which I don't make very frequently, but of toys that I make, dragon is the most used type of toy. And I will be making another dragon this year, maybe 2. I can't remember if Gabriel asked me for another one or not. If he asks me again, I'll make him one for Christmas. But my nephew asked for a dragon, a very specific dragon. I think it's black with purple eyes, or purple with black eyes. I can't remember. I wrote it down because I know I would forget. So I'll be making one this year for Christmas. And you know I like dragons. This is the Poison Ivy wrap. And I think it's really pretty, but, and I think I would make it because I really like making lace. However, I don't know what the wrap looks like because there's no picture of it just kind of laid out. I like that you can see how it lays on the body, but there's not a good picture even of the motif. So I don't really know what it looks like. And it's not charted. It's written out. It's written instructions, no chart, just so you know. And this is the only picture of the project, of the pattern at all. So I was kind of like, that's kind of unfortunate, but I'm sure Ravelry will come through. I didn't look it up on Ravelry. but it's really pretty. Side note, I really, really like knitting lace, but I don't like wearing lace. I'm not a lacy type of person. This is very frustrating for me because I want to knit all the lacy things, but then what am I supposed to do with them? I don't know. I usually give them away to other people. This is a pattern thing and also a picture thing. That is George R.R. Martin with a knitted direwolf. He does the Song of Fire and Ice, which is most commonly referred to as Game of Thrones series. He's the author behind that. This is called the Dragon Rider Shrug, which I like, but again, this is the best picture of the project, and you can see where it ends kind of, but I wish that there was a better picture of the front and the back, and there's just a really small photo back here where you can't really see the detail. You can see Miracle Lori, who I feel like the name is familiar, but I can't think of who this person is. And I could look in the back because there is information on the designers who contributed and also the people / animals / things that are the models for the pieces. There's also a Banicula that I did not mark because I'm not going to make a Banicula, but that's why my friend Claire bought it, because she was like, really, Banicula is why I picked up the book. This hat is, it's called the Running Dead Headband and Hat. And I was looking at it, and I wasn't even going to stop and look at the pattern at all because, just Peter Segal did not draw my attention to it, and it's a perfectly nice pattern, but I wouldn't wear it. And then I saw by Emma Bull, and I was like, wait a second. That can't possibly be the same Emma Bull who wrote War for the Oaks and other books. It is! What? I had a fangirl moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I love War for the Oaks. I would say War for the Oaks is probably my favorite standalone or book that I read as a standalone. I don't know if it's actually a standalone adult novel. I think it's a standalone, but it might be. She's written several other books, and they might all be in the same universe. I've only read one other one, and it didn't share any characters, so I felt like they were both standalones. But War for the Oaks is my favorite standalone adult fantasy book. It deals with fairies. It's very, very good. So I totally geeked out. Apparently, Emma Bull has started knitting recently-ish and designing patterns. And I totally found her on Ravelry and added her to my friends list. I don't usually add people to my friends list. I don't. If people friend me on Ravelry, I friend them back. But I don't usually go searching for people, but I totally fangirled and stalked her, and yeah. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I was so excited to see that it was by her, even though I probably won't knit the pattern because it's just not me. Unless someone who I love is like, hey, you know what would be really cool? A hat with people running away from zombies on it. And then I'd be like, I know this pattern. The last two patterns are not patterns that I need for my life, for knitting, but I do need them because Neil Gaiman modeled both the Baker Street hat and the Baker Street scarf. Oh no, I have another pattern that I want to show you. Baker Street scarf. So yeah, total. Neil Gaiman is someone who I would like to say I would like to be his friend, but I think he's probably too cool to hang out with me. But I would like to have dinner with him sometime. I would. The last thing is actually 3 things, but I'm only going to show you one. It's a 20-sided dice pillow and a D6 and D4 pattern. So how awesome is that? Kind of want to make those because I know exactly who I would give them to as a gift. So I might. Oh, it's not a D4, it's a D8. I wasn't looking that closely. Fail. So a D20, D6, and a D8. This book is awesome. And I kind of want it. It's $21.99 US, which is not that bad. I might buy it. Because it's really, really cool, and I would like it for my bookshelf. But I have to give it back to Claire. I'm just borrowing it for a minute. This week I read some things. I finished reading The Exiled Queen, which was so, so good, and I immediately want to start the 3rd one, but self-imposed rule of not reading books in a series one right after the other. So I'm taking a break, and I will put the 3rd one on hold about a month out so that it doesn't get to me right away. And I also started reading. Sorry. I was going to think if I was going to say anything else about that book, but I talked about it pretty extensively when I talked about the first book in the series, and the second book in the series is also excellent, and I want to read the 3rd one. My problem when I start talking about books in series is that I want to talk about them, but I don't want to talk about the story so much in case people want to read them. I don't want to spoil the books. So it's awkward. But I definitely want to read the 3rd one. So I think that's enough of what I need to say about it. This is a magisterium book. It is the first book, The Iron Trial, and it is by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. Why am I doing this to myself? Starting a new series that I'm going to have to wait a year for the 2nd one. Why would I do that to myself? Because it's written by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, who I like her books pretty much. She is, what did she write? What's the series called? I have the 4th one out from the library that I started reading a while ago. Oh, I don't remember. It's about the I can't even remember what they're called now. I'll talk about it next week because I'll be reading it starting as soon as I finish this book. I'll be picking up where I left off, which I think was around page 100 of the other book. Anyway, so The Iron Trial. In the world, in modern today, there are mages, and they go to the school. When they're 12. You go when you're 12. And you have to do a test, and there are masters who can take up to 5 students. But I don't think any of the masters this year did. I think the most was 4. So they take students, and so a lot of people get sent away. And one of the main characters, it's going to be a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it happens in the prologue. So skip ahead 30 seconds. I'll keep it under 30. One of the main characters, his parents were part of the Great War that just happened 12 years ago, where the enemy slaughtered a cave full of people, including his mom. And he was in the cave. The baby was in the cave and should have been slaughtered, but wasn't. Okay, so that's the prologue. And he goes to the school with, these are his people who are in his group. This kid is Aaron. He is not the main character. This is the main character, Callum. And this is, why don't I remember her name? I don't know. I keep reading it all over and over again, and I just don't remember right this minute. Tamara. Why is that hard to remember? I don't know why. But that's Tamara, and they are in a group together, so they study together. all the time. And I started this book on Saturday, Friday, I don't remember, one of those 2 days, and I'm almost finished with it. I didn't do very much reading yesterday. Otherwise, I would have finished it. I thought I was going to finish it yesterday morning when I was getting ready to go to knitting, and then I didn't read the rest of the day. So good, as I think everything that Holly Black writes is. So if you like Holly Black, it's a good book. Pick it up. So good. Why am I starting a series that I'm not going to be able to read? That drives me crazy. I like starting series of books that are already written, so I can just pick them up as I want to read them, which is usually pretty quickly. One right after the other-ish, like one a month sort of thing. I forgot some knitting. Again, barn raising square. I worked on one. I did not do any hexapuffs this week. This is Desert Vista Dye Works yarn in the colorway The Ides of March.
Where's my princess?
Which I think is super pretty.
I found my princess skate.
Go find it in Dad's room.
I can. It's still on a toy box.
Okay, go find it in the toy box. How did you... She ripped her princess dress.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to fix that. It's fine. Go.
can you fix it?
Yes, I will fix it. Oh, don't get naked in my room. Go out of here. Small childs. Anyway.
Fix
Yes, I will fix it. So this is very, very pretty. I am currently binding off. So finished. This is square number 40. Thank you. Go get dressed. Go put a shirt on, please.
No, I don't need my
Totally distracted by my small human. So that is going. No hexapuffs. Just too busy knitting other bigger things. I will get back to knitting hexapuffs because I want them to be finished. Maybe if I start putting the blanket together a little more, I'll be like, oh yes, this is awesome. Now onto some things that are knitting related, but not my things. There are 2 things I want to tell you about. Crow Julie is hosting in the Dragonfly Soars group on Ravelry a Click for Babies hat knit along thing, crochet along, craft along. The rule is that it has to be for a baby and it has to be donated for Clicks for Babies, and the hats need to be at least 50% purple. The reason why I'm telling you about this, other than it being for a really good cause, there will be a link in the show notes to the blog post about it, is that I donated a prize for the knit along. So if you participate, you could win a pattern from me. There are also patterns, other patterns donated, and 2 Etsy gift cards, I think, that were donated. So there's that. And that'll be in the show notes. You can find out about Click for Babies. It's really quickly, it's to help raise awareness about violence against small children. Small children can be stressful. Babies especially. So not in my finest moment, but I feel sometimes that we don't talk about how hard newborns are. Everybody talks about how your life is going to change and how you're not going to, it's going to be totally different than what you expected. But nobody really tells you how horrific it can be. So I'm going to tell you a story that
this part.
I'm going to be a terrible human here. I feel like a bad parent whenever I think about it. It was not my finest moment. So when Gabriel was 3 days old,
Mama,
2 days old, I don't remember, 2 or 3 days old, we were home from the hospital. I will find the needle. You need to wait. We had just come home from the hospital. It was either the first or second night that we were home. I was exhausted because I had just pushed this human out of my body, and I was recovering from that. I was exhausted because newborns, they don't require a lot of care, but with your first one, it's just very stressful. And I hadn't had a particularly unstressful delivery. I was induced. I called for pain medication 3 different times over 45 minutes. So every 15 minutes I called, and there had been a changing of the shift. And my nurse who had been there when I came in had left and didn't tell the other nurse who came in, who they had pulled from peds instead of being an incoming, what is that called? I can't think. An incoming person to help deliver babies. Incoming nurse. What is that called? That whole unit. You would think I would know. I've done this twice. Anyway, she didn't tell the nurse that she had a patient, and the nurse didn't quite know how the floor was run because every place in the hospital is ran slightly differently. So she didn't know she had a patient. And I had been calling for a nurse for 45 minutes. The last call I didn't actually make. My best friend made it and was like, someone needs to come in here now, like right now. And then they still didn't come for like 10 more minutes until the fetal monitor dipped because Gabriel's heart rate dipped. And then they came in, and I was having nonstop contractions. Like, they would go off the chart and then drop back down to 80 and then go off the chart again. And that had been happening for like 45 minutes, and I had no pain medicine at all. And that was, that was a little rough. When they came in, before they gave me an epidural, I went to the restroom. And when I get hurt, I'm not a yeller, crier, screamer, or whatever. I'm not that person. I just get really, really quiet. And sometimes I hold my breath a little bit. Well, I was holding my breath a bit, apparently, because my face was completely white. My lips were blue. You know the villain from The Ring? I kind of looked like that. Like, my hair was drenched in sweat and, like, soaked, and I looked like a horror movie villain. So that was my labor. Once I got the epidural, it was very quick. I took like a 15-minute nap and then got up and pushed out Gabriel in 5 pushes. Yeah, Mara with 6 pushes, Gabriel was 5 pushes. Done. So it wasn't too bad after that, but I was still recovering from that ordeal because that puts a lot of stress on your body. I'm sorry, she's being so loud and I'm babbling about this random thing. So that, and just having a new baby, like having your life rearranged, is a lot of stress. So anyway, newborns, they sleep a lot. They eat a little bit. You have to change their diaper a lot. Gabriel, we had to change his diaper every hour. We were going through 24 diapers in a day, every day for the first 3 weeks of his life. Perfectly healthy. They were like, well, he's fine. He's growing. He's doing his thing. So it's fine. But so I wasn't sleeping because I was getting up to change him and feed him, and not by myself. I had help. But I was just, it was not good. I was not good. He was 2 or 3 days old and he was screaming. I had fed him. I had changed him. I was trying to put him down for sleep and he just wouldn't go to sleep. And I was exhausted and stressed out. And I was looking at this little tiny baby laying on my bed in front of me, just squalling. And I broke down, and not my finest moment as a parent at all. I screamed at this little tiny infant who doesn't know anything. Like, it's got to be stressful being a small person who's just born, because you're inside this warm, cozy thing with everything muted and constant heartbeat sounds from your mom and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're in this huge space where everything's strange and different and you have these new senses and everything's crazy. So it must have been stressful for him too. And he was just screaming, and I looked down at him and I screamed, "What do you want from me? I don't know what you want. And I'm really, really trying here, but you're freaking me out." I'm about to start crying because I feel so horrible about it. Anyway, luckily, my mother-in-law was staying with us, and she came in and she was like, "I'm going to take him away now, and you take a nap." because she knew that he was already fed and changed. She was like, there's nothing you can do for him that I can't do for him. And if he just wants to scream for a couple hours, I'll hold him while he screams. It's fine. You take a nap. So that was probably the best thing ever, because Clicks for Babies is about awareness of violence against babies. Shaken baby syndrome, it happens. And I'm not saying that it would have gone that far had my my mother-in-law not intervened. But I don't know, because I was not my normal rational self at that moment. Like, you're hopped up on hormones and in pain, and it's just really, really stressful. So yeah, Clicks for Babies. Awareness about how that happens. I'm so thankful that my mother-in-law was there, because, well, I don't think that I would have hurt my baby. It is possible that it could have happened. And people do it not meaning to, but it happens. So yeah, that. Clicks for Babies. Go support. Go join in the knit along. The other thing that I want to talk about, which is much more fun and makes me feel like a less horrible human, is that Jenna of 716 Knit in her 716 Knit group is hosting a hand-spun swap. So you spin some hand-spun for somebody, and there are 4 things total that have to go in your package. So 4 things. You put in a package, you send it to somebody. I signed up because that's awesome. Who wouldn't want a skein of handspun from somebody else? I'm super excited. Even though I spin handspun, I don't really use my handspun that often. But I really, really like getting handspun from other people. So yes, that. I signed up for that. You should go sign up for it. It's awesome. And totally only kind of related to that. You're supposed to pick 5 patterns that you would be interested in having handspun for. That way your partner has an idea of what they should have as an end goal for their spinning. And so I went through my queue and I deleted 3 pages from my queue. My queue was 18 pages and now it's only 15 pages. That's crazy, right? But I found some patterns that were in my queue that I totally forgot about that I'm really, really excited about knitting kind of soonish. That's all I have for you this week. Yeah, that's all. I'm sure this is like a bajillion hour episode. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. I will see you next week. You want to say goodbye?
Bye.
You want to come over here and say goodbye?
Bye.
See you next week. Bye.